Okay, welcome back. So let's go over note values. What is the value of a note speaking rhythmically? In other words, how long do you hold down the note when you see it? Okay. Now, note values are simply the value of time that a note has. In other words, how long you hold it down. A quarter note is the most common type of note. A quarter note is basically equal to 1 beat. So you would hold down a quarter note for just 1 beat. If you look on the image in your PDF file, the note below is a C note. Okay, the note below is a C note, and it's not middle C, but it's the one that is an octave above middle C. So you would play the notes by playing a C note just 4 times, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then once again look at the image that's in the file. Okay, so pretty easy, right? So now think about this. The reason they call it a quarter note is because it takes up. Remember, there's four beats in a measure. 4 quarter notes take up 1 measure. So they call it a quarter note because it takes up a quarter, or 1/4 of a measure. Remember, a measure usually equals 4 beats, and a quarter note equals 1 beat. So it's taking up 1/4 or 1/4 of a measure. All right, and be sure to look at the image of what a quarter note looks like in your PDF study info. Okay, the next type is called a half note. Now, half notes are held down for 2 beats. They have a value of 2 beats. So you can say 2 quarter notes equals 1 half note. Okay, because 2 quarter notes added together would equal 1/2. All right, they call them half notes because they take up half of a measure, generally speaking, in common time. 1 measure usually equals 4 beats, and a half note is 2 beats. Okay, so that would take up half of the measure. Now, if you look in your study information, the note below, the bottom of the image, the bottom of the page, is a G note. This is also the one that is above middle C, and we'll study which notes are which here very shortly in our next lesson. So you would hold this down for two beats, 1, 2. Okay, you would hold the G note down for 2 beats and then let it back up. All right, so that's a half note. Whole notes. Now, whole notes look like a circle, basically just a circle, almost like a donut, just an empty hole, and they're equal to 4 notes. They call them whole notes because they take up the whole measure, all 4 beats of the measure in common time. Okay, so 1 whole note equals 4 beats. So you would hold down a whole note for 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd hold down a half note for 1, 2, and you'd hold down a quarter note for 1. And then you'd let go of it. Okay, hope this is making sense. All right, now if you look in your study info, the note in the image below for the whole notes is a C note, and this is the one above middle C. Okay, so you would hold it down for 4 beats, count 1, 2, 3, 4, just as it's written. All right, so that's whole notes. Pretty easy so far, right? Not too bad. Quarter notes, half notes, whole notes. Eighth notes, a few more here. Eighth notes are equal to half a beat. Okay, so eighth notes are equal to half of 1 quarter note. If you think about this, 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note. It takes 2 eighth notes to equal 1 quarter note. So an eighth note is worth 1/2 the value of a quarter note. And you're probably thinking, well, how can that be possible? Well, basically, an eighth note is half of a beat. Half of a beat, and we'll explain a little bit more about that here in a second. So, if you look in your study info, there are 2 eighth notes, and we would count these by saying 1 and. Okay, 1 and. Okay, this is shown in music by 1 with a plus sign after it, 1 and. So let's say that the notes, you'll see at the bottom of the page that there are 4 eighth notes all in a row, and you can tell the eighth notes because they have the little flag at the top, unlike a quarter note, which does not have a flag at the top, or 2 eighth notes will be connected by a little line or a flag at the top. Okay, so let's say that the notes below are middle C. You have 8 eighth notes in a row at the bottom of the page. Let's say that those are all middle C notes. You really can't tell because they're not on the bar graph, the bar line, so you really can't tell what note they are. We're just going to imagine that they are. Okay, so you would play these by counting out loud and saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alright, so think about this. A quarter note equals 1 and then you let it up. 1 and 2, and you let go of it. A half note equals 1 and 2 and. You see what I'm saying? So once again, quarter note, 1 and 2 and 3. Alright, so 1, 2, you've let go of it by the time you say 2. The and on the other, the eighth note, in the other hand, you would do 1 and you've already let go of it. That compared to that. Alright, that's an eighth note. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute to show you some more.